So I want to react to people who said, what are Republican programs? My video on people realizing that they are Democrats when they didn't realize it before, because Donald Trump said in the Oval Office that he is cutting Democrat programs. And a lot of people realize the programs that he cut, they actually benefit from. So what are Republican programs? If you don't know, so I'll let you know, because you might have thought you're Republican. So let me help you clarify that. So Republican programs are programs for big businesses, corporations, the ultra wealthy, manufacturing plant owners, folks who are in the top 1.1% of earners, income earners, crypto bros with huge portfolios. So here's what those folks get, the top of 0% in the Republican programs that are just for them, the ones that Donald Trump says are working and they like. So that they include stuff like deregulation, because, for example, if you have a business and it's cheaper to put certain pesticides in the foods on your plants or your huge farm, even though research may say that specific pesticide causes cancer or whatever like that, your thing about is making a lot of money, making your crops grow, and so you're not really concerned about that. So Republican programs help roll back pesticides that's been already found to cause cancer, so you can continue to put it into the crops and make as much money as possible. The Republican programs include cutting back Office of Safety and Health inspections and workplace. Donald Trump's first term, he cut back so much that there were more workplace deaths. So that's horrible for the workers, but great for the businesses, because the Republican program says you don't have to inspect. Same thing with FDA. So you're a food manufacturer and FDA is pesky, always in you, try to make sure there are certain additives in your food and there are not too many bugs in the food. Those pesky regulatory oversight, record keeping, reporting, all that stuff is annoying. And so the Republican programs help say, we're not going to do it, so don't worry about it. Keep doing whatever you need to do to make as much profit as possible. Speaking of profit, the Republican programs during Donald Trump's first term, he attempted to allow restaurant owners to take the tips of their workers, because essentially they're saying, you know, you're a restaurant owner, you put all your black and sweat into opening this shop, you're entitled to all the money, even though you pay your restaurant workers like less than minimum wage. You're giving them a job, they should be grateful. But luckily that failed, but that would have been a Republican program to allow the restaurant owners to take the tips of their workers. Republican program. Another Republican program, anything that's anti-union, because here's the thing. If you're a Republican program, the beneficiary, worker unions just get in the way. Like, you want to be able to pay the least amount of money, don't give overtime, don't give benefits, and the unions allow the workers to organize and demand those things from you. So Republicans are anti-union. They're right to work, meaning right to not be part of a union. Though we know in history, unions have been a way for workers to get rights and things like that. But that's not something that they're priority to Republicans, again, because they're looking out for the interests of the big, large businesses. So if you are a worker and you're Republican, you're really helping your boss screw you over, because those programs are not necessarily in your best interest. That's Republican program. I mentioned regulations, so not just pesticides, but also clean air, clean water, pollutants in the air, smog, all smoke, all that sort of stuff. It goes back to being able to just do what you need to do for the bottom line of your investors, doing it the cheap way, as easy as possible, and not having environmental protection regulations stop or slow you down. So that's why Scott Pruitt and the Lee Zetlin, and all for last term and then this term, Donald Trump's environmental protection agents actually sued the Environmental Protection Agency itself and rolled back over 100 regulations to help. He had lobbyists in those positions, and the lobbyists, when they were in private sector, they represented the interests of the fossil fuel industry, the coal producers, the smog and smut. That's who they lobby for. Those are the people Donald Trump hired to be in charge of the Environmental Protection Agency. Why did he put them in those jobs? Because when they're in their jobs, they're going to actually sue the Environmental Protection Agency and roll back the regulations on behalf of their former bosses. He put lobbyists in charge, coal lobbyists in charge of environmental protection. He did that the first time with it was like Scott Pruitt, and he did that again with Lee Zetlin. That's Republican programs, looking after the interests of the polluters against you who want clean air. So that's what it is. So if you are interested in what's going on in people's bedrooms and who they marry, what they do with their bodies, that sort of stuff like that, that's Republican programs, because they have programs for abortion, to stop people control women's bodies and their decisions on when and how to, procreate. They're interested in anti-trans rights, stopping people who want to do whatever they want to do with their body from being able to do what they want to do with their body. If you're interested in that, that's a Republican program for you. Also, in terms of culture, you are interested in not allowing people who lived throughout history to have their version or the history told from their perspective. So the anti-DI ban in books is because you might be interested in having the history told only from the white perspective. That's it. So if you have a story from the Tuskegee Airmen, you pull that off a line. The anti-DI pulling history books. I mentioned in the video, there was a grant that was pulled because the grant talked about this woman who lived in a black neighborhood. That triggered in the cut and paste to say, oh, this is DI. We can't discuss history or life from the perspective of anyone who's not white. And it must be sanitized so white people look like the hero all the time. And so that's what Donald Trump is all about. And so if you're a Republican program and you want to suppress and sanitize history so it does not recognize Native code talkers and their role in the war, you don't want to recognize Native American, what happened to them, the trans community, other people's experiences and lives experiences. You don't want them mentioned. You don't want their school books about them in your library. You don't want your children to learn about anyone else but white people. Then that is a Republican program, because anything that's anti-DI, when they say anti-DI or woke, they're really just talking about other people having a space and their stories being told. And so that's Republican. So if you are a member of any of those other communities, women, disabled, veterans, anyone else other than white male, all the oppression and that stuff is not for you. Speaking of the economics, so if you want tax cuts, the Ronald Reagan tax cut, the George W. Bush tax cut, and the Trump tax cuts, which we're still feeling. And Ronald Reagan came up with this theory called trickle-down economics. The theory being that if you give the wealthy people who create the jobs tax cuts, tax benefits, eventually it'll trickle down and they'll increase wages. But we know that wages have been ticking up super slowly, and it doesn't work out that way. And from Donald Trump's last tax cuts, when he was in term, what did the wealthy people do with the money? They didn't create jobs. They didn't open up factories. They paid out dividends to the shareholders, and they kept the rest of the money for a rainy day service. That's all they do. They don't give it down. Trickle-down economics has been proven not to work. But if you are a person who makes a lot of money, owns big companies, big stuff, that's why you vote Republicans, because they're going to help you not pay your workers. They're going to help you not have to worry about regulations, not have to worry about inspections, they let you merge and do all sorts of stuff that helps the corporate interest and your big business interest. So that's what the Republican programs are. It's stuff for the rich and ultra wealthy. For some reason, people who don't benefit from it still vote for them to give benefits to people who that's not them. But what happens is Republicans have been masterful in letting the poor folks believe that it's the Democrats or it's the people of color or there's migrants or there's trans people or there's other people that are benefiting in their lives somewhere out there in the world. There's other people doing better than them, and for that reason they vote Republicans and they help tear those people down, because their programs aren't about building anything. The Republican program is about tearing down. The American Health Care Act, the Obamacare, they've been trying to remove that for over 15 years. They don't have an alternative. They want to take away health care. You see them trying to take away SNAP benefits, take away union rights and ability for unions, take away safety in your health, your offices, take away your ability to breathe clean air, take away your ability to have pesticide-free food. So they're about like redistributing wealth upwards, deconstructing, tearing down, removing things, taking things away from people, rights from people, not making lives better, making lives worse for the people because you're wealthy and you want to pad on the wealth. So that is a Republican program. So share this video with anyone who may not have realized that they're not Republican at all, or didn't realize that they were voting for a party that does absolutely nothing for them. And for people who are rich and they don't need the help, they don't need the social benefits at all. And so, so that's the Republican programs. I hope that's helpful for you. Change illegal. Each one teach one. Share this video with other people so more people are aware of the difference in the parties. And those both siders, y'all are full of shit.